Hello everyone, how you doing? And welcome back to Skye and Evan in the morning. And today, Evan, today we're going to be talking
Bit
about
of
a couple of movies.
a bit of an outlier. We don't. I was mentioning this. You and I don't usually watch these movies together. Usually, we watch it on our own time and then
mm,
discuss it after the fact. But you'd seen my pick, the first of my choices, and you had not seen the sequel
yeah,
that I asked as homework. So we literally just watched them back to back. I fresh eyes, and I think
finished
you and I
five
would
minutes
agree that we
ago. Yeah,
both. And we gave this a chance. We did not talk over everything. We were trying to absorb it. I really think we were fair to both movies, but I
yeah, the
The
movies.
Incredibles is one of
Yeah,
my all-time favorite films, and The Incredibles 2 is not one of my all-time favorite films. So that is why we are here.
yeah. I think a bit of the issue is we definitely have enough to say about the second one, and we have way more to complain about with that. But we should start talking about the first one because it is a great fucking film. And like you said, it's one of
Yeah.
your all-time favorites. And honestly, I loved it watching this time way more than I did any other time I was watching. Though
Yeah.
it is funny, as a kid, I didn't like this film. I mentioned it to you, but I wasn't a fan of this film as a kid. But now as an adult, being able to understand
Yeah.
the what the movie's going for a lot better. I do really love it.
I mean, it's funny as a kid, you know those movies that you like? I actually didn't grow up with The Lion King because I don't
Hmm.
think my family like had the VHS or the DVD, and I think this was one of them where I watched it. But like Toy Story, my family had those two movies, and I grew up with Toy Story and Monsters Inc. This one wasn't quite the same, but every time I watched it, like it felt special. It felt like it's like a really cool and interesting movie. And again, I watched it in theaters. I was like 5 years old. I still vividly remember seeing this in theaters with my dad. He and I watched the movie together. It's like I don't think it's the first movie that I remember watching in theaters, but it's the best movie. Like it's like one of my earliest recollections of watching a film in theaters and just being wowed by the movie. I and I was mentioning it to you when we were watching it. I would assert that this movie's perfect. And it's like I think you and I have brushed on the idea of a perfect movie and
Hmm.
the whole hypothetical. But pacing alone, you and I were talking like this
It is
movie
perfectly
does
paced.
not let up. There's no wasted time in The Incredibles. There's nothing that is just a scene for comedy or a scene just to kind of fill the gap or something like that. Everything is relevant. Everything means something and matters to the characters. So, um, you go on because I'm trying to find a
Hmm.
specific point to draw from.
Yeah, I think I made a comparison while we were watching. I compared it to Wake Up Dead Man in terms of pacing, because it's a movie I rewatched recently, and I was just like, wow, I do not see the time
I
passing, and it's 2 hours and 20 minutes long, and it's just like it flies by because it's just not only is it so good that you're like always entertained and looking for clues and everything is just really well paced, and I think this movie is just that, or it's just like it's not even that it just doesn't let up, is that everything is tight. There is no fluff,
Yes.
which is a big problem with
Well,
the second film. But there is
yeah,
no fluff in this film. Where you even said like there's some scenes that they edited out, and from the original script and everything, where it's
yeah.
just like
I
it makes sense to keep the story tighter, to not have irrelevant, unnecessary scenes, to only focus on the story they are trying to tell, and it tells its story brilliantly, and it doesn't have any moment that feels like they're
del
wasting your time.
yeah, I missed the era of deleted scenes when they would be on the Blu-ray, and it's just one of those things where you watch them and you're like, yeah, I
I
get
see
why they
why they were
cut that. Like
deleted.
that
Yeah.
cool scene, but it makes sense to cut that, usually for the sake of pacing. And yeah, pacing is tricky. It's a tricky thing to deal with. I was mentioning the third Slough House book. I'm like, that's probably the best paced of the books, and the whole thing is just like it never lets up. There's always something else happening that like just leads directly into something else. And in this case, what The Incredibles is so good at, which like Brad Bird's talked about, is that it's a family movie. It's a movie about a family, like, you know, understandable, relatable family drama is in this movie. Like the dinner scene where like Dash and Violet start fighting and then but they're using their superpowers when they're fighting, but it's still like we've had those arguments, those really awkward dinners where like dad's had a really rough day at work, mom's been stressing out, and like the kids have gotten in trouble and it's just the whole thing is just a clusterfuck. I That's what this movie nails, in addition to also being a great superhero movie and almost like James Bond too.
Yeah. I mean, we mentioned it a lot that it feels like a Bond villain. That Syndrome feels like a Bond villain. And it works perfectly for this film because it is super over the top, and it's like you said, it's like paying like homage, right, to the fucking, like the golden age of comics and everything. So it
Yeah.
has that vibe of like, yeah, everything is over the top and silly, but in a way that feels earnest and not like it's like making fun of it. Because it's a movie about superheroes, but it feels like it respects and loves superheroes, which is interesting because it's obviously, it came out at a time where superhero movies weren't this huge thing. This felt more
Yeah.
like a film where someone was like, I love reading comics and this niche thing, and nowadays superheroes are like this mainstream thing, so it's like completely different the way a movie like that would be made, which is something they could have done with the sequel to actually make it an interesting film to like make about like superhero movies and have that meta aspect to it. They didn't because
Oh,
they just didn't do a time skip. We'll get there, but
well,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Fuck. I mentioned X-Men 97 as well. Like that's one of like my favorite shows of all time, but I that show does such a great job at like because it's a legacy sequel technically. It's like a revival of the original X-Men show. But I'm like the original like show was targeted at people that are like probably 10 like under 10 years old. It's made for kids. And you can tell even though it's still an X-Men show and deals with like sensitive subjects like racism like obviously ties in. But those kinds of themes can be more prominent in a legacy sequel made in 2024 and they it's made for the kids that grew up watching X-Men and now they're older. My problem with 2 is it didn't grow up with its audience. It's just a generic super it's not and the biggest thing is that it should have been about Violet and Dash. Like
Yeah.
I we're probably
Violet
going to be
should have
bouncing
been
between
the
these.
main character of the second one. Like, you obviously you mentioned it to me a lot your pitch for the second film, but to me it's clear like she is the character with
Yeah.
the most potential of the kids, and we needed to focus on the kids because you already did a movie about the parents.
That's the thing. The first movie, like, what is the original Incredibles, like, all things considered? It's basically a midlife crisis movie. Like, dad was, like, really successful at one time, the whole, like, really amazing in college kind of a thing, and just, like, everything's going for you. And then you settle down with a family, and it's like, well, you got a job, and, like, kids is poor, and, like, you hate your job, and you're just kind of, like, doing it along. But, like,
Mm-hmm.
you're unfulfilled. And then the adventure calling scene. It's like that's at the 30-minute mark, and he gets this iPad that is this potential to resume superhero work, to be incredible again. And it's just that like tied in with Helen, like what is the whole thing with her? She at a point she starts to think that he's having an affair. And the kids aren't really the main characters. They're not meant to be. They're very much relegated to the sideline and
Mm-hmm.
are used to build up Bob and Helen. Like the argument scene. That's like towards the end of the first act. I would honestly say that's like the capping of the first act. And what are they arguing about? They're arguing about Dash largely, and a bunch of things. But like Dash got in trouble, and he didn't make a big deal of it before, and she's bringing that back up. But in a sequel, what you could do is you could have them be the main characters, and Violet just makes so much sense because what I was mentioning, I love the 100-mile dash scene, and I'm like, Violet doesn't get that moment in the original movie. She still uses her powers better as the movie goes on, but it never feels like she has like control of her powers and that she is like reached her full potential.
Yeah.
And in
Well,
2,
it
I don't
feels
think
like
that
both
either.
films are building up to her having a big moment where she's like, "Whoa!" and we see how powerful she actually is because they mention her how powerful she could be. Their only limit is themselves, and they talk about and she says like, "Oh, I'm gonna need to protect us. Like, my shield is better than the ship, so I'm gonna stay with Jack." Jack is like, "Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
So there's gonna be a moment where you're gonna use your shield and protect everyone, right?" And no, it's just it's Lucius who does it. It was super weird. We were watching it too, and it's like, "Oh, Lucius is the one who stops the ship with the fucking snow." Wouldn't it have made way
Yeah.
more sense if it was her building like a big protective bubble around the entire ship?
Well, the third act is such a hodgepodge of different people doing so many different
Yeah,
things, whereas like the original, like it's just simple. The Omnidroid. It's like stop the Omnidroid. Like everything they're doing, they're just like, we gotta stop this thing somehow. We gotta destroy it. And everyone works together, uses their powers in conjunction. But in two, it's like we gotta stop a yacht that is driving directly into the city from hitting the city, and Bob has to go down like attached to the anchor chain, and I to steer it differently at like Helen is getting the bad guy in the middle of it all, and everyone's like calling things out, but like it's so true. If you watch the third act of this movie, like who did the most work? Who saved the day? It's like it's
Jack Jack.
Lucius.
Well, yeah,
He saved it.
Lucius.
Yeah. Well, oh my God. So I said that to you. So in the third act, if you see The Incredibles 2, what happens is everyone has been mind controlled. Everyone, other than the kids. And what happens is the kids infiltrate this boat, and when they do, they 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 literally show up, and the like Frozo and Helen and Bob are there, and then Violet makes a force field, and then the baby, like Jack goes through the force field to Helen and takes off her mask with telekinesis. And then Helen gets the masks off everyone. I'm like, the kids delivered Jack to the scene to save the day.
Yeah, and
Like
it's the whole thing of
they
like,
were like a pizza delivery for it.
well, I made fun of the idea of like all of them being mind controlled and being like, oh, I guess the kids are gonna save them, and I thought it was a little funny because I thought it was underdeveloped because it's I compared it to Mitchell's versus the Machines where there's the scene where the kids
Yes.
are the only ones who aren't captured, the kids and the dog. It's actually really similar because Jack is basically the dog. Um,
Well, yeah, what you said about like the whole like down moment, that
yeah.
moment where it's like, oh my God, like everyone is kidnapped, and what are we
Yeah,
gonna
and
do?
we
Like,
need
there's
to
no
do
one to
that.
save the. It's
But the difference is Mitchell's vs. the Machines completely hinges on how much of Katie's character we know, and of I forgot the kid's name. Actually, yeah, I forgot the kid's name. Her brother, and
that's
his inventiveness, and the whole thing of like him being weird but embracing it, and that's how they win because of the fucking dog looking like a big loaf of bread and everything. It's funny. And the film spent the entire runtime building up the character of Katie and her relationship with her dad. In this film, Violet and Dash are barely like important at all, or like
well,
it is just like a Violet should be the main character. But even
not
then,
to
it's like
mention
she
like
has a
in that.
little something with her dad, but it's like it's nothing. There's no build up to like, oh my god, she saved them. They thought she couldn't. It's like no, they just do. She just delivers the Jack, and he Deus Ex Machina's the shit.
Well, in my opinion, what I wish that the dynamic had been, because like we were saying, like the original movie, it's about Bob and Helen. It's their story. The two of them, they're married and they
Hmm.
have kids. It's a family story with them in the central role. What I like about Violet being the main character is, for one, time jump, 10 years in the future. I like the idea that she's recently graduated from college, maybe married Tony. One way or another, she's settling down the way Helen did. And Helen can understand that. And I like the idea of Helen. I like the idea that Bob and Helen just retired because, like I said, maybe they'd be like what, in their like late 50s to early 60s
Hmm.
after like 10 years. Like it could be that they just want to retire
I mean,
and
it would
raise
make
Jack and be
sense,
parents.
because
So
it's one of those jobs that's just very physically demanding. So their body is
yeah,
just like tired, and they need to
you could you could deal with that. Like I mean, like in the original, they made a joke of like Bob cricking his
cook his
back, but
back. Yeah.
seriously, it could be one of those things where they're losing their edge. And the scene that's always stood out to me for sequel potential and just the idea is the plane with the missile lock scene. Because What happens in the scene is they're trying to fly to the island. They don't know what the deal is, but they know that Bob is there. Helen did not want the kids to be on that. She didn't know that. They snuck on. And they fire missiles at the plane, and when they do, like Helen is obviously panicking and trying to evade, and she tells Violet to put a force field around the entire plane. And what she says is, you told us we weren't supposed to use our powers, and I've never made one that big before. And then afterwards, there's this scene at the cave when she leaves the kids to try to like hide and tells them to run if anything goes down, and that she's gonna solve everything. But I she like apologizes. She like says I'm sorry, and Helen says it wasn't your fault. Like she said that because she thought they were gonna die.
Mm-hmm.
It was unfair, and that's what she says, that it was unfair.
Yeah.
But in a sequel, like you said, I love the idea of her making a shield in the third act that's huge, that is bigger than she's ever done, and
Yeah.
that's what Helen says in that same scene. You have more power than you realize. But what I said about 2 is the theme of the film is insecurity. Like, I'm not being hyperbolic. Everyone in the film is insecure.
Yeah.
Bob is insecure about being a stay-at-home dad. Violet is insecure about Tony forgetting her, which is like pretty fucking arbitrary. Dash doesn't really go through much of an arc, and then Helen is insecure about doing superhero stuff, which for some reason she has to live away from the house when all that is happening. I don't know why, but one way or another, everyone is insecure in 2, and it feels like everyone's moody and
Well, one of the
emotional
things
when
that
in
I
the
think
first
would have been
movie.
better to like ground the story would have been if, it was like a commute for her job. Not that she was away all
Yeah.
the time. Like, just have her come back home, and like everyone's already asleep, and maybe she feels like she's not connecting as much with her family. Which, I mean, it is just the same fucking arc as the first film did with Bob, that he is not prioritizing his family. But the second film is just a copy of the first one, just worse in every way.
Just where Helen takes on the role that Bob did, and that's the
Yeah,
thing. It feels so samey and safe.
it feels
The
samey,
elephant in the
but they
room.
don't even like do it, which is the whole thing. Like, they don't
No,
commit to actually giving her like flaws. I don't.
no, because Bob is very flawed in the original
Yeah,
movie. His whole thing is very irresponsible. He's going out and moonlighting with a mask on and like listening to police scanners, and
yeah,
he knocks down a building. That's what they argue about. But
and and
in
and
2,
and,
Helen's just kind of an adrenaline junkie and in on it, and like, yeah, like
and it's
superheroes are
not really
cool. It's
seen
like,
as like a bad thing either. Like, it's just a
no,
thing she
I
does, and by the end, it's like, oh, it was only bad because the person who was helping her was actually evil, because she had a very awful plan that made absolutely no sense. Where she could have just
what was
mind
her?
controlled her from the start and already like skipped the
Was
whole,
she
film. But whatever.
just to clarify? Was that her end game? She wanted to crash, she hypnotize everyone, crash the yacht. I guess she wanted to save her brother, and then when the yacht crashed in, everyone would blame the superheroes for taking it
Yeah.
over, even though it's obvious the fucking goggles. Like I,
Yes.
it's so
She
fucking
could have just done
noticeable
the
and
thing from the
distracting.
start. She didn't need to have the whole screenslaver thing and build Helen up to
Well,
only to knock her down. You could have just knocked her down, especially when, like, from the start, they were already frowned upon because the destruction in the first act, the opening scene, where they fuck up arresting Underminer or
well,
whatever his name is. Like,
well,
there's
my
no need for it.
Well, it's so funny. I remember laughing when we watched the scene with Screenslaver at the apartment. That might be my favorite scene in the entire film. The animation's amazing. I was comparing like the cinematography they were doing to the Batman. It reminded me a lot of Batman going into Riddler's like apartment, and it's all like there's like drawings on the walls and all. It's like Seven. But I get that's such a standout moment, and literally Evelyn is boring compared to Screenslaver. There was more potential in just having it
What?
be that this guy just had a grudge, and he was just another guy who just got gear together and tried to discredit superheroes.
And I wouldn't have minded it if it was Evelyn, if they had done more with her. I was talking to you
Well,
about that, but it's just like she has one scene with Helen, basically one, two, and then she
Yeah, well, the
betrays her,
second
and then it's
the
like,
second scene is when she betrays her, but there's like a little bit of a flirtatious thing going
well,
on,
that's the whole
kind
thing because
of.
she's playing the role in the beginning of Mirage in the first film. And
Yes, yeah,
Mirage was flirting with Bob. That was a whole thing. Bob was flirting with Mirage, and she was flirting with Bob. That was part of the thrill for Bob to being like this superhero, this cool guy who's
yeah.
hot women want him.
Well,
Maybe he wouldn't have been unfaithful, but there is that edge. But the second film
well,
doesn't like fully lean into it because there's this whole like super because it's Disney, it's Pixar, and they're fucking scared of
yeah,
doing anything openly queer for starters, but secondly because they don't have the balls to do something interesting with the story. So because when Evelyn like betrays her, and she's like, "Oh my god, it was so easy, like to get you to trust me and everything. Like you don't know me." That would have been so much better if there was acknowledged in the text sexual tension, because that would have made it so that there was a reason why she trusted her. Maybe just because she was like enthralled by her flirting with her and everything, instead of just like
yeah.
trusting her for no reason. Like you would have had a character reason for it, but no, they don't do
Sort
that.
of swept off her feet, and that could have felt more like a betrayal of just
Yeah,
like, damn, like I. But it's one of those things. It's just so undercooked. It's hard to even say that they were doing that. That it just more so feels like hinting at it. Because again, it's like that's what Disney always does. They never commit to anything queer because that pisses off China. So and they don't get as much money. So that's why you never get people that are fucking gay. It's like, but I don't know, man. I Evelyn is so annoying because it's just this is of the twist Disney villain era where everyone was a twist after Frozen, and it's so fucking obvious. And I'm watching it now. The scene in like the supercomputer cooler where she's got like for one, the original Fantastic Four from the early 2000s did that shit with like freezing someone who can stretch. But beyond that, they made fun of monologuing twice in the original Incredibles.
mm,
And then in Incredibles 2, they do it unironically. There's no reason for her to give that
monologue.
speech that she
Which
gives.
is again, if
This
you had
other
acknowledged that
than
there was something between her and between Evelyn and Helen, if you had
yeah,
acknowledged it, then there would have been a reason for Evelyn to say that because she actually cared about Helen, but she doesn't.
yeah,
She's thin. Like there is something you could have done to make Evelyn interesting, but every time it gets close to doing something like that, they don't commit. It's the whole
well,
thing. Like there's so many things I've watched recently or played more so, which do that. Like I played the weird comparison, but I played Mafia 1, the definitive edition. Um, and it's a game telling the most straightforward mafia story you could ever see in your entire life. The most boring, bland, yes, exactly what you expect. And at every turn, I was like, "Ooh, this game is gonna do this because that's an interesting choice," and it never did. It never committed. That's how I feel with Incredibles 2. It's just doing the same thing the first
yeah.
film did, but it never commits to any of its ideas. Like, oh, the kid stood up. Violet, isn't that interesting? Oh no, actually, it's because he had his mind wiped. Well, at least they're gonna address that the dad caused it. Well, she's just gonna forgive him anyway, and the kid is just gonna like go out with her by the end of the film anyway, so it's gonna be resolved basically with no issue. So where is the conflict? Like there is no lasting consequences to Violet either. Like her being mad at Bob, like that's
No,
interrupted
she
by Jack watching TV, and then later on she forgives him like 3 lines of dialogue. It's so undercooked. Everything in this film is undercooked. So frustrating.
here's the thing that I was mentioning about a hypothetical. Like, I saw a comment that nailed it. How do you make a great sequel to The Incredibles? Time jump, like 3 steps. Time jump, killer villain, time jump. And it's like they didn't do either. The villain is awful and generic and just gets arrested at the end. There's nothing. It's just like they just slam the door. It's like, yeah, that's it. That's the end of
Which is
Evelyn. She just
another
went to
thing I
jail.
mentioned, but
Like,
like it feels like it's missing a scene when Helen saves Evelyn's life. Of
yeah,
just like there should be a scene where they talk, but no, she's just arrested and the
something.
film
But
ends. And it's like, but I
well,
thought you were
what
doing
that
something interesting thematically or like story wise, or that these two had a sort of connection. But no, I guess it's just
well,
villain of the
what
week
we get
basically.
instead is the hypoxia in the plane and her like
Yeah.
it's like someone on a table with a knife and her like, scraping the knife and talking. Like it's not earnest. It's just the villain
Well, it's
doing
doing
villain things and saying
the ending
villain
of Die
shit.
Hard, right? Of the whole like laughing with
Yes,
the gun in your
yeah.
back.
Which again, they made fun of that shit in the original Incredibles because that movie was really clever and had a really good villain. Here's my idea for an Incredibles 3, like, or just an Incredibles sequel. Steal my ideas, Brad Bird. I like seriously.
You are free. There will be
What?
no. Evan will not sue you
I.
if you do this, Brad
Oh.
Bird.
One way or another, my idea is for one, I like the idea of the villain. I like the idea of the villain being a girl, and I like the idea that they're around the same age as Violet. They grew up when superheroes were illegal, just like the kids from the original movie did. We're like entertaining the idea that they're the main characters of the sequel instead of Bob and Helen. Bob and Helen are still important, but they're relegated. Their main thing that they're doing in the movie, they've retired from hero work. They're raising Jack Jack. That's the key thing that they're focusing on. They're just being parents. With Violet, you could have it so that she's, like I said, graduated college recently. Maybe she married Tony. Maybe she has a kid. Dash could still be in college. There's a new status quo. What do you do to change the status quo? It all depends on what's happened in that 10 years. So, in the original film, what they did is they had a really good montage that's just an exposition dump. It's probably only like 2 minutes or so. Let me see this. Yeah, it's give or take 2 minutes, but it's just a newsreel that explains everything. It explains how we went from 10 minutes of glory days and yeah, like yay, superheroes are cool, to they're outlawed and everyone is pretending to be normal. It's another idea, just like I was mentioning with the cave with Violet. There's that line at the dinner argument. What does anyone in this family know about normal? And X-Men 97 also uses that word, normal people. And I love the idea that in a sequel, the villain is just used to pretending to be normal. They have superpowers, straight up, just like Violet. And they could use them, but they just see it as like taboo. It's like it's beneath them to use their powers. But what they're trying to do, discredit superheroes. Their whole motivation is that they think that things were better the way they were. And that's what Violet said in the original movie. I want to be normal. That dynamic makes sense for the hero and the villain of an
Yeah.
incredible sequel. It's better thematically. It's something that is not too samey to what the original film did, and just Violet as a character is unrealized across both films.
Yeah.
They do a lot with her, but there's so much more potential.
I
What I
think
was saying is that just one last note. Dash gets his moment when he runs on water. That's his like fuck yeah, like, and he runs on water towards the end. That's his hero moment. That's his like this guy he clearly uses his powers all the time and loves it, but Violet doesn't get that moment, and she should in a sequel. So take it away.
yeah, no, I was only gonna mention that I think the reason they wouldn't do something like that is because, well, for one, it's not safe just because of the time jump and like not being the exact same look and everything for the characters. Like selling toys is like unironically a big motivator
Yeah.
behind this. But another reason
Well,
is that I think your idea plays too much into the queer undertones of superheroes in this universe.
I
Of like having like a pick me gay, being like, oh no, it should be illegal, we should do it only behind closed doors, and her be like accepting that she isn't
well,
quote unquote normal. I feel like that might be too
well,
much for Disney.
wouldn't that be amazing though?
Oh no,
Like
I would
exactly
love that.
that tie
It would
in.
just be too
Like I
too much
said,
for Disney.
thematically, it ties into sexuality. It ties into like mental health. There's so much that you could explore with
Yeah.
that concept.
And you
Just
you mentioned as well something I love in terms of like having Jack Jack be a kid like 12, and we talked about
yes.
him being like potentially autistic, and obviously his powers are tied to his mental state. So like maybe he hurt someone by accident or something like that,
Well,
and he needs to tone down his powers, and there's some like self-hating going on there, and he needs to learn to control his emotions, and there's obviously the societal pressure about him being a superhero, and that if they were seen as like you know worse than just like quote unquote normal people. and like I said, maybe my idea from what you said was like maybe he hurts his bully. Someone was like fucking beating him up or something, and he just fucking
Yeah,
hurts him on accident. Like doesn't kill him, but hurts him, and it's like shit. They need to relocate or something like that, and it becomes like a
well,
real thing that they need to deal with. And you can explore Jack as a character because he would become a character. But the way they did
well,
Incredibles 2, he is not a character. He's just a plot
a
device.
baby yeah, a baby isn't a character.
Yeah.
That's usually what it is, right? The baby's been kidnapped. In fact, that's literally the ending. Syndrome is about to kidnap the baby,
Yeah.
and it turns out the baby has superpowers. It's because that's the thing. The original movie is so anti-cliche, and that's one of the examples of that. Like the kid always gets kidnapped in the third act, but instead of that, like he
He
fends
rescues
him off, and
himself,
then
which is
Bob
funny.
gets
Yeah.
the kill at the end. But in a sequel, like what did they do with Jack? They don't do anything other than cute baby. They have the raccoon, like you were saying with toys.
I mean,
I I I
that
I,
scene was
I honestly,
so jarring. Him fighting the raccoon. I was like, what are we
it's
doing? It's just the movie's interrupted to become a short film.
yeah, just we get
A direct to Disney
comedy,
Plus short
situational
film.
comedy with a
Like, imagine if, like, in the middle of Guardians 2, one of the episodes of I Am Groot started playing. That's basically what that is.
yeah. It's just a complete distractor where it's just like, why are we doing this? Why are we taking out a time of the movie for that? But in a sequel, I've just like that. That's what I've always said about Jack. You could do anything with him.
Yeah, because he's a baby. He
Like
could
he'll have
become
red hair.
anything.
He'd be like older. Like I like the idea that he maybe goes by JJ or Jay instead of Jack.
Hmm.
And like I said, he'd be a little older than Dash was in the original movie, and he'd be a little younger than Violet. It's like you can do some unique things with that. And what like you were saying, I love the idea that he's afraid of his powers
Yeah.
because, like you said,
You
the
have
whole
such an
thing with
interesting
Jack in the
dynamic if you compare him to Dash and Violet because they grew up saying that they should hide their powers. But because they were outlawed.
well,
But if it wasn't outlawed
yes,
anymore and Jack was
it
told
would
to embrace his powers, but he was scared of his own powers, that would be
he'd
fascinating.
show Yeah, because you could have Bob being more, and I like I said, I love the idea of Edna being a bit of a mentor figure. They set it up in two,
Yeah.
ironically, so you could still do it in a sequel. But I love, I love the idea that at one point in a sequel, Edna's like in danger, like there are people that are sent to kill her, and she has like traps over her house, like no one's gonna hurt her. She's just like sipping tea
Uh-huh.
while that shit's going down, and Jack goes in and like goes like Logan mode and like fucking like annihilates everybody, and it's like I'm fine, dude. But she loves seeing him use his powers. Like that could just be such a cool, consistent thing that Edna
That
is.
would have been a great payoff if
Whereas
he's
he's
like suppressing his powers the whole film, but he uses it to save Edna, even though she wasn't in danger.
yeah,
She would appreciate that he's
and
embracing his powers because she would always have told him to embrace them, but he's scared of them. That
that would
would
be
be an
the
amazing
exact
arc.
dialogue. Yeah, he could like break through and just think that it's like he needs to save, but it's like, dude, I look at you. You have all these amazing powers, and you did all of this. You could do this, but it's only when you think people are gonna die, or like when you're like pushed to the absolute limit that you do it. And because of that, Jack uses his powers all the time in Incredibles 2. If it were used more sparingly, because he only uses his powers once in the original, but he's
Yeah.
doing it all the time in Jack Attack, because Jack Attack is just a comedy. It's just the cute baby short film.
And it's
It's all
fine.
built
It's
around that.
fine. Like it's
Yeah,
fine to be that because it's a short film. It's a special feature on a DVD. It is not a whole 2 hour long feature film that is built around the fact that
yeah.
Jack can do these random
You
things
can
that the plot requires him to do.
Yeah, you can create comedy with a baby, but you can't create plot relevance. And the perfect example of that is Jack saving everyone in the third act. He's a
So
baby.
stupid.
He's just like, why are your eyes weird? Boop. And it's like, there you go. Like I said, hit the staples, that was easy
Well,
button. It's like, God.
it's what I said. It would have been so much better if they used Dash's super speed. Or maybe Violet
Just
creates a force field around their face to like expel the goggles out or something.
like I said, make a fight scene of it.
Yeah.
Dash has super speed. You'd think he'd just be able to pull it off quickly, no problem, and Violet can go invisible. Just do that.
It would have been cool.
But they
Imagine
don't.
seeing
They have
Dash
to.
fight Bob and Violet fight Elastigirl. like finding their own
Well,
parents, and then they take out the goggles. That would have been cool.
well, yeah. Here's the thing: you were mentioning the Mitchells versus the Machines with two, but it's like it's 90 minutes at the point that the kids like it's all on them. That's what I said. Like there, it's that moment where it's like, oh my god, everyone's
Hmm.
hypnotized. Everyone's like it's Invasion of the Body Snatchers,
Yeah.
basically. But I you would think at that point that the film is all focused around Dash and Violet and that they take on the main character roles. But if you did that, what you need to do is have Bob and Helen be hypnotized for most of it. That way, it would feel like I don't know what could Dash do to maybe I don't know what he could do because that's why they had Bob be the one to switch the anchor. But like you were saying, Violet's shield, she could have made a really big shield, maybe over the city even that like protected against the yacht, or used those to steer it differently. But once the mask's pulled off of everybody, then it's the discount like Justice League, like, and then they're hypnotized, and then everyone has to fight them, and everything just feels messy because of that. It doesn't feel like I was mentioning the original Incredibles is just like the Omnidroid,
It's
destroy the
super
Omnidroid,
simple.
just like yeah, just like the Death Star, destroy the weapon. But in this, it's like we have to stop a boat from crashing into the city and discrediting superheroes because superheroes supposedly took it
Yeah.
over and all of
Wow,
them are
there's a
hypnotized. All of
fucking
them,
jet flying into the air with the
yeah, and
real
escape.
villain who's escaping.
And then and then Saul Goodman just jumps out of it in a really funny moment.
That was, yeah. So much of this film is just like,
Oh,
oh, okay, I guess that happened. Like, you're just like, okay,
the
I guess they
well the
made that
word
choice. I have no clue why.
well the word is contrived. It's
Yeah.
just like I was saying. Like the perfect example that you pointed out right away is Tony realizing that Violet is a superhero because for one, that's a character moment.
Hmm.
You could have it so that she tells him and that we see that like,
Maybe
superheroes are supposedly going to
imagine
be
he's
legal
scared
again.
of her.
So,
Imagine he's scared of her. It's just like, no,
yeah,
wait, don't go. He runs away. Boom,
yeah.
character. Like she's the whole thing about her wanting to
All
be normal now is brought up again. You can explore her character, but like it's that. But there's also like, why did she take her mask off? She would never take her mask off. It's so
it's such an
weird.
arbitrary she's just mad and she just throws it
Just throws
down,
it
and that's
down.
how the whole thing with Tony. And because of that, he doesn't have any memories. And again, what do they do? Just comedy. Just like
They do
haha,
comedy. They
he
do
doesn't
like
remember
one
and
scene where they address it with Bob and her, but not well enough for it to actually matter. It's so
like
undercooked.
like I said, I like the idea that in a sequel, she's just married to him. Like it worked out. Like she met someone when she was younger, they grew older, they got married, they have a kid. You know?
Hmm.
We were saying the like the nuclear family thing, the whole American dream in like the 1950s era. I'm like, that's what you're supposed to do, right? You're supposed to go to college and then settle down and have a kid. You could just have it that Dash hasn't quite reached that point, but she did. And she's happy with that. Like Helen was happy just being a mother and being like a wife until like bad shit goes down and she has to use her powers, which that's just what I love. I love the like I was saying with Jack not using his powers as much. Like I love the idea that in a sequel, Violet is very in tune with her powers. She might like controls like I. There's this weird small shot in two where she uses her powers to like she uses force fields to like go together and like knock debris out. I don't know if you remember that small moment, but she doesn't do all that much that's like innovative with her powers. It doesn't feel like she's. What's the most impressive thing she does with her powers in two?
I mean,
Like,
nothing. They don't do much. It's just like, yeah, force fields. They just repeat the same
I
shit. It's just
guess
force fields and invisibility.
I guess she fights Void. That's like that for one, I love that scene. I love the fight and I love the music. I
Mm,
like you were saying, the animation of this movie is pretty good. Like the music's
mm.
great and the fights are actually kind of
Yeah,
cool.
I think
But
the
it's like
action scenes are the best part of the film. There was something we mentioned about the animation, which is not exactly that the animation's bad because it's not, but it's that it feels like they're trying to show off how many particles they
rubber.
have. So it feels
Yeah, like it's
it
more
somehow feels less real, even though it's more photorealistic, because it's going for a more like, whoa, look at
well,
how good we are. When the first one was a
well,
more cohesive idea of like the story they wanted to tell in the script and the story that was told via the animation. You know, it all went together
Well,
well.
to compare it to comic books in that regard, it almost reminds me of like line work, where like more simplistic like style of something like X-Men 97, but then the 90s where everyone's muscle like Spider-Man like in the suit. And it's like just muscle city and just super detailed. Like it feels like that where yes, it looks better, but the character just isn't as
Hmm.
there as much. And the other thing that I found distracting is that the world itself doesn't like the action itself, especially with the Underminer fight. Things feel more cartoony in two. It's hard to quantify, but a great example of that is Bob getting run over by the treads and just like there's that moment where he's running away from the Omni Droid. I'm like, I don't feel like Bob can just get crushed with ease in the original movie. I feel like something like that could fucking kill him, but I guess not. And everyone kind of feels like that. It's ironic because Elastigirl, that's her literal power, but everyone doesn't. There's
Yeah,
something
no, they all
different
feel
about
a
the
little
animation.
rubbery. Yeah, it's it's weird. Yeah, it, it, I made a comparison because Patrick Williams made a video. I actually don't think the video is out on YouTube. I think it's only out on Nebula, but he made a video about like can video games be like cinema. And one of the things he
Mhm.
brings up is like video games trying to be cinema, especially like Naughty Dog type games,
It's
while
so
being like super
it's so common
photorealistic.
because yeah, like Naughty Dog has paved the way for that
Yeah,
for
like The
video
Last
games
of
to
Us
feel more
especially
like
is like the big
I
perpetrator
yeah.
of the like,
Yep.
and
Ever
it's the
since
whole thing
then,
of
it's like,
like,
hey, we're like the movies.
and a lot of yeah, and it's a lot of things that like we're the more particles we have, the better it is, you know, and it's obviously there's same principles in terms of like video game animation and
Well,
it's just
the
because it's
the
CGI anyway.
the last The Last of Us Part One's a perfect example of that. Like yeah, it looks better, but I'm like, I prefer the models of the original. Ellie looks better in the original game.
Yeah,
It's like the quality is different, but I'm like, I don't want to play The Last of Us Part One. I would prefer to play the remastered version because it looks better, and it's just
yeah,
it's the character of it all.
yeah.
It's the character
You
of the
lose a
art
little
style
bit
versus
of
the
the the artistic intention when you try to appeal more to a like sense of realism of trying, and it's one thing that I've heard a lot of people say in terms of like ray tracing with video games too, that it's made a lot of AAA games like look worse because it's just trying to appeal to that, whoa, look how shiny it is and how reflective everything is,
well,
when it's just like more
well,
reflective puddle does not equal better animation, better graphics.
film in general is like that because we're getting so many glossy movies that don't look good, and it's just like just because you can do everything in 17K doesn't mean that everything should look crisp and pristine, and there's no like fucking just like grain and general just film grain. I miss that. I miss when there was
Oh,
like some sense of like things don't look like iPhones and look
oh,
kind of like they were.
it's I've mentioned it before, but 28 Days Later, it's a film that
Yeah.
looks awful, but it looks beautiful because it's filmed on a shitty
Yeah.
camcorder, but it is like with amazing lighting with purpose behind the way it's shot. And it looks ugly in a way that is purposeful and adds to the atmosphere of the film, and that is why it's beautiful, you know?
Yeah. Oh my God, and we have to talk about Giacchino's score
Yeah.
because man,
Both
I
films just
that's
knocked it out of the park.
yeah, two I will say like some of the songs blend a little more in two, and two has also like more tracks on the actual soundtrack. That's something I actually noticed when rewatching the first movie is that there's a lot of sequences with just no music. Just, like Bob, that's what I love about Adventure Calling. There's not a lot of music in the scenes before he gets that iPad, and it's just the title. Jack Kino's so good with titles of his songs, and that's just what it is. Just the chance. It's what gets him into the second act. Is that like the chance to be a superhero again is thrown right at him.
Yeah.
And again with Violet, man, that's what I love. I love the like instead of super. That's what would be so interesting in a sequel with superheroes being legal again. Because in two, it's about them trying to make them legal. I like the idea that in 2, they already are legal.
Yeah.
They've been legal, but like I said, they're unpopular. There's a lot of people that are amateurs that didn't do superhero work when the glory days were out, and they make it look bad. Like it's not like you don't need a villain to do most of the heavy work. You can say that just like the superheroes themselves are kind of messing things up. And characters like Jack and Violet, it would be interesting to see them willfully not use their powers
Yeah.
and just because they're trying to fit in, and like a lot of people are trying to fit in. So
It's
oh,
it's weird because this reminded me of, one of my rewrites that I mentioned while we were watching, is that it would have worked so much better if in the start, when they beat Underminer. Is that his name, Underminer? I think so, right?
yeah.
Is they
Well,
beating Underminer, that they actually do everything right, but they're still blamed for it. Because the whole thing with Screenslaver
yeah.
is that he's manipulating, like the perception on TV, and Bob Odenkirk's character is like trying to, rehabilitate them, because in the eyes of the public, everyone hates them. So it would make a lot of sense to do that instead of just like them actually
Well,
fucking up, actually have them succeed. But for some reason they have them fucking up, which kind of ruins the whole idea with Helen, because she doesn't want to be a superhero in the start. She's like, no, we need to just
yeah.
like lay low. But if it's like, no, when they're
She
now back at it, now wanting again to be superheroes like they did at the end of the first film, now it would make a lot more sense for them to know, let's actually fight for it. And that's why they seek out Bob Odenkirk. It would have worked so much better.
well, for the record, like it's kind of funny how the opening works. You were mentioning the like robbing a bank. It's so weird, the Underminer.
Yeah,
Like,
because we didn't
I love what you said with
assume that
Tasm.
he would have robbed the bank by the end of the first film.
Yeah, I love what you said about TASM 2, where it's like that's the ending of Incredibles. It's not meant to be, and like blame the marketing of TASM 2
Yeah.
with like people being like that because they showed it in the trailers and they
Yeah,
shouldn't
no,
have.
they
But
shouldn't have it.
the ending of The Incredibles isn't meant to. That's what I was laughing at when we were watching the movie. It's like, oh my God, we gotta stop the Underminer. Or it's like Jack Jackson. It's like, well, the baby's not gonna do anything, and it's like, well, we'll have the kids watch it, and then Bob and Helen do it, and they get it. Like, it's like this is why you don't show that because that doesn't make any sense at the end of
Mhm.
The Incredibles. It's just supposed to be a capper at the
Yeah,
end
it's supposed to be like
that you
in
don't see.
the
Like,
now as a family they fight crime, and it's just like this
yeah,
cool moment. It's the same as the end of TASM 2, where like now the hero is back at it. He's fighting the bad guys, But it's
yeah, when you try to play that out and
yeah,
you try to like have it so that that kicks off the entire story, it's like, well, we were never meant to see that
yeah.
really, and I just
And it's
don't get
so
as
weird
interesting
because
of
they're just like,
drama out of it.
why are we doing this? Why why is he robbing a bank?
Yeah, why is the under who's like said that he declared war on peace and happy? He just fucking robs a bank and fucks off. And then the cops get on their ass about that for like not just letting him rob the bank. It's like, motherfucker, he was like drilling through the ground to
Definitely would have
destroy
killed
buildings.
people.
It's like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Would
I
have made way more
just
sense if he just went and robbed the bank, which is the whole thing in the beginning of Incredibles 1, with Frozone and Lucius and Bob, with them, going fighting a guy who's well, they are destroying like the building and everything, like
yeah, yeah.
or just like them trying to fight crime but fucking up, and that's how, the whole conflict of the first film starts.
Well, it's natural in that film, and that's what Bob and Helen argue about, is that he knocked down a
Yeah.
building, and it's like the building was on fire, and they were just trying to save the people, but then it looked like they were robbing a jewelry
Yeah.
store, and it just like I it made more sense why characters messed up and why they did the things that they did, and it's like, what is it in the original film? It's just as simple as Bob is dissatisfied with his life, and why? Because he can't be a superhero.
Yeah.
With Violet as the main character, it could be more complex than that. She doesn't want to be a superhero. She would prefer to hang up her cape and just be a mother.
Yeah.
And until, like I said, until trouble comes knocking at their door, at which point Dash and her could take on the main character roles. And this, they're making an Incredibles 3. with Brad Bird directing or writing, and the director of Elemental directing it. They have a gun to the man's head, and it's so depressing to me because I do not believe that an incredible sequel made now will be half as good as the first, and I don't even expect it to carry on with the ideas of the first. But we talk. I always say this shit writes itself. It's not hard to make a sequel to The Incredibles. They laid out all the material with Violet and Dash. You just like
The only
it's
thing
as
they have to
simple as
do
the
is committing to the ideas they set up, which unfortunately the second film does not commit to anything. It's redoing the first film, but worse, and with Helen instead of Bob.
and everyone ends the film worse too. Like it's just the end note in the original film is that like they've because you know the whole like Violet's wearing her hair back thing at the end of the movie, and she asked like she Tony fucks up the whole like asking her out thing, and she kind of like helps him along, and it's
Yeah,
a
which is
cute
like
little
showing
moment. Dash,
her confidence, which she didn't have before, because she's embracing her
yeah,
quote unquote
but
weirdness. But yeah,
but they just completely go back on that in two because the second that like Tony sees her without the mask, then it's all this teen drama. Is she going through adolescence? It's just like
no, but it's the
that's
whole thing
it.
of like that would
I
be interesting if they committed
yeah.
to that idea, but they don't. He's like, no, I like her, and then they mind wipe him, and then later on he's like, no, okay, let's do the thing. It's also the I mentioned it to you, but the ending, right? They're taking her to the movie theater with Tony, and just cute little like family dialogue. I'm not like a huge fan of how overbearing they are, but it seems to be more jokingly
Yeah.
than like they are like being for real, being
I
like, oh no, we're gonna watch you. I think they're just like teasing him, which is, fine. But when they go to fight crime, there's like some duty calls thing, which is so funny how Fantastic Four First Steps copied that scene like one to one. But
well,
the
I've heard I was mentioning that they lied about Jack. I have, like I said, I haven't listened to Giacomo's score from Fantastic, but everyone was like, "Hey, this is like The Incredibles, and it's like the '50s, just like The Incredibles. You like The Incredibles?
hmm,
Please watch Fantastic."
pretty much. But anyway, the when they go there, I think it would have been so interesting if she was like, "You guys got this, right?" And they're like, "Yeah, we
Yeah,
got this." And they let her be a kid, be a teen, and go to a movie theater with her date. And they took care of
yeah.
the issue. Like that would have been interesting. That would have been a nice development of the family dynamic of
Well,
about like letting her grow up and be, like her own person outside of the family. But they're like, nope,
well,
we're all gonna do it together. It's like, which is like, it's not like necessarily bad, but it's just like boring. Like this, it's what I said throughout the
yeah,
entire
because
film.
because it's
Every
this.
choice in this film is boring.
Well, it's the same thing. It's like you were mentioning, where it's just why did they do that? They play the same music. It's the end of the first film where it's like riding into the incredible. I'm like, I wish that they'd done that with the kids older. Imagine that Bob and Helen aren't in that final shot, and instead it's Jack, Violet, and Dash.
Yeah.
They're the ones that end on that shot of opening the suit and like going into the Incredibles logo. It just like I that would be so cool. But it's just that fundamental thing with two, where it's not about the kids, and I think it was just an immense mistake. I just like I, there are certain creative choices where it's just like they're just bad. I'm like that's one of them where I think it was a mistake as the filmmakers, and I have a really tough time believing that Brad Bird made the film he wanted. Like you were mentioning, like, does this feel like something that was like planned that they were? Because there was a fucking message at the beginning of this film when I watched it in theaters. It's the whole Babylon thing I talked about of just like, hey, thank you for watching this film in theaters. We know it's been like 15 years, but we wanted to deliver the proper sequel to The Incredibles. Like, go fuck yourself, man. Like, this isn't it. I just, it feels contractually obligated. And I don't know if I've mentioned this yet. I think I said it to you, but they shaved a year off of the production time. This was supposed to release in summer of 2019. Instead, it released in summer of 2018. What I read is that it was apparently because it was like far enough in production that it was okay. But I just can't help but feel like at least like another year for this movie to cook, it would have turned out better. But one way or another, it just feels so rushed and sloppy in comparison to the original. Because
Yeah.
the original is just clearly just made from the heart. This nostalgia for the 50s and just like classic superhero comics and just telling a story about a family. But two, it's just what's two about? Like,
Same fucking shit. It's just redoing the same shit. It's boring. Like, yeah, I
yeah,
mean,
like
but it's the thing,
I
it's redoing
Helen.
it, but like, what is Helen's arc? Because in the first one, and I we haven't talked nearly enough about the first one, but regardless, the first one,
Yeah.
the Bob's arc isn't, that he's seeking this thrill without caring too much about his family, but his family are also one of his biggest strengths, which is why they are the ones to save him. He tries to shield them from like his life of
Yes.
superheroism, but they actually save him, and he realizes that he can't like lock his family out of a part of his life. They need to be a part of it. Which is, why Helen thinks
Well,
he's cheating. Wow, that's character. That's an arc that he goes through and needs to learn by the end, and like letting the kids
and
help.
the
But the second film, there's nothing that like Helen. She doesn't learn anything.
yeah, like it's so weird what they do with Helen in the because like in the original movie, here's the thing with Bob. Like I love Bob's arc, but I mentioned like it's a midlife crisis movie at the end of the day. It's the whole like the baiting of the cheating thing. I'm
Yeah,
like this is what happens, right? Like you get a fling and you have an affair. It's like life's boring and you don't know what to do, so you fuck
it's
around and just
Breaking
kind of like
Bad.
try to make your life more exciting. Yeah, yeah, but the whole thing that they do with Helen in the original movie is that this is why I think it would be a really good idea to have Violet and Helen be the main dynamic rather than Bob and Helen
Hmm.
because she is more like Violet. And they directly set shit up like I said with the scene with the cave. I just things feel like they're meant to be set up by them. But in the original movie, Helen Bob like misses being a superhero. His whole thing is he wishes he was a superhero. He can't be one. He works at an insurance agency where he makes people's lives worse and just like fucks people over. And he hates that. Like he cheats out of it. It's like he literally like is getting harassed by his boss because he's helping people, and he's just basically working at a job where you're not supposed to help people. But Helen, her whole thing in the original movie, she's very secure with where she is. She's like hung up her cape completely. She's not doing superhero stuff. She still uses her superpowers like around the house, but she's happy and content being a mother. But Bob, like Bob is moving them around a lot and keeps messing up. That's what leads to the argument. And then yeah, she's the one who saves him on the island, and then the kids stow away, which is like it's the whole thing of like why the kids like in danger, like the kids should never be. It's like they stowed away. It's like
Yeah.
it just that's fine. It makes sense. That's why they're in the middle of the third act, and it's like once they're
Well, and it
aboard,
works
there's like
perfectly for every character's point of view, right? Like it works from Helen's point of view because she would never endanger her kids ever. It works from Bob's point of view because he wasn't at home to be able to look after them when Helen left.
yeah,
It works from Dash's point of view because he was obviously always going to leave. It's just in his
yeah. He
character.
wanted
He's
to know what
very
was going on.
impulsive.
He had the
Yeah,
suits.
he's very
Yeah,
curious. He's very impulsive, and more than that, even I think, is that he wants something more out of life. He wants some excitement in his life more than just being not allowed to
yeah.
do the things he's good at. And Violet
Well,
still has some that too of like similar to Dash, just less so. So it works on every character's point of view, like why this happens. It's just
this
really,
is what
really good characterization.
I've talked endlessly about Violet and what you could do with the sequel and her being like unrealized, but Dash, you were saying that like what's Dash's arc in two? I'm like, it's so clear in the original. What is he doing? He's acting up. He's putting tax on his teacher's chair, like in and using his superpowers to do it. He doesn't get caught for it, but obviously like Helen is like upset with him for acting out on
Yeah,
purpose. Why is he doing it? He wants to go out for sports. And it's like and Bob wants that. He encourages it, and it's like, and but Helen's like, we can't do that. Like, and it's the whole thing of just like the temptation, and that's his whole thing is acting up, and then like there's a stretch where he's gone for a while because they focus like largely on Bob, but then after, but even still, it's just how the original movie just wastes no time the Life's Incredible Again montage is him throwing the football, and he uses his super speed to go and like come back, and that pays off in the third act because he
Yeah, with the
throws
remote, yeah.
the remote. Yeah, but it's like, so Dash is gone for a little bit, but you have that to set that up, and then he stows away on the plane because it's just like how his character works. And then Helen tells him, if anything happens, I want you to run as fast as you can. And you get the 100-mile dash scene, which the OST is amazing, but that's his moment. That's Dash's I'm a fucking superhero moment when he literally runs on water to escape from the bad guys. And Violet didn't get that moment in either movie. And that's just a crying shame because it's just, like I said, just a huge force field. Just like she couldn't make one on the plane in the original movie. Just seeing her being able to do that and saving the day, that would be amazing. But this is why I just think it
It
just
was
makes
set up
perfect sense
perfectly
for.
for her to do it in the fucking ship, but it's Frozone who does it. It's so weird. I don't get why it's Lucius. It's just, I don't get it. I just really don't
Yeah,
understand.
it's yeah, the end of the movie. Like I was saying, so it's so weird how the
Because
whole
they even
yacht
set it
thing
up in
is put.
that scene of her saying like my force field is better
Yes,
than the ship, so I'm gonna stay with Jack Jack.
but But you know what that scene is, really? It's meant to give her something to do and just that literally is what it feels like. It feels like they didn't have anything for her to do, so she's like, "Dad, I'm gonna watch Jack Jack." And he's like, "That's my girl." It's like, what? Like just the original film. What we talked about endlessly when we watched it was the pacing and just how no time is wasted. It's 2 hours, or just a little under 2 hours, and there are 90-minute movies that are just perfect 90 minutes. I'm like, this is just a perfect 2 hours. It's just a
Yeah.
perfect 2 hour family film. And there's so much potential in the idea of a sequel. But just when you watch The Incredibles 2, I'm just like, this is not paying off what was set up in the original film. Arcs
Yeah.
feel unearned, and the whole
Well,
thing
if the
just
first film didn't
feels.
exist, the second one could exist as it is. Like I
Well,
was actually
that's.
feeling it that well I was like wait because when we were just like doing it again it felt like that whole start was just the start of the first one doing the montage and showing like them doing superheroes but something happens where they fuck up and it's like yeah they're just redoing that and I guess it could just be of like I guess we're reintroducing it to a new audience and then we're gonna continue the story from Incredibles 3 by like redoing the same story. I guess it makes some kind of sense is the whole TFA idea, right? I don't know, but it's just so frustrating because like it's you said that about what was it Monsters University, right? And Toy Story 3
Yeah.
of like movies that know that their audience grew up when they
Yeah.
watch
I,
from when they watch the original and they acknowledge that in the new one, you know.
Well, that's the thing that I mentioned that directly, man. Well, I did not. A friend of mine told me that Toy Story 3 was going to have Andy in college, and I didn't believe him at the time. Like, come on, there's no way they would do that, but they did. They had it so that the kid who played with Woody and Buzz in the original film grew up, and it leads to that amazing scene, like the thing that makes Woody special. Like, that moment always gets me to this day. And in Monsters University, like you haven't seen that film, but it's a pretty damn good prequel, all things considered. It just sets them up, and the whole thing is it's just them in college. So there's college humor for people that grew up watching Monsters Inc. back in '01 and who grew older when they did it. So it's meant to appeal to them. I wish that you could have had, like I said, Dash being in college just makes sense. 10 years, he would be in college. Just, he'd be a track star doing sports, just so much that you could do. But without a time jump, this film just feels like there's nothing to do other than retread the original and touch on the whole idea of legalizing superheroes. But it's just like instead of making that the entire runtime of the film, what you could have instead done was just montage through everything like in the original and just had solid short exposition to explain superheroes getting legal again. And like I said, what could the film largely be about? It could be about characters who don't want to use their powers, like Jack Jack and like Violet. And the villain. I love the idea of the villain having superpowers. They could maybe wipe the floor with the Incredibles, but they hate superpowers. They don't want to use them. And yeah. unrealized ideas, and that's just what I will always say is that this shit writes itself. All of this just makes sense and it's not hard, but maybe we'll get it they'll get it right the second time, you know? Maybe maybe Incredibles 3 will do a time jump.
Yeah.
And
Maybe it's the film where they
that
finally commit
you
to an idea.
well, yeah, you were mentioning that like you could kind of ignore it. Like that's what I laugh at is I'm like, I don't think you need to I think you should just make the film I'm talking about, even if The Incredibles 2 exists.
Yeah,
Because like 10
easily. Could
years,
fit
just
in
all the
canon
characters are
easily.
yeah, the characters are different. You change the world and like the stakes with like superheroes potentially being legal again. I'm like, you can see, you don't have to ignore two because so little even happens in it. Like the characters aren't changed in any substantive way. They're just kind of adrenaline junkies and more insecure. So,
Mm.
oh lordy.
The whole thing too is that it just feels like hinting at grander ideas and just not committing to any of them. So, maybe they commit to the ideas in the third one. I don't have any hope, but
Yeah, I mean it's another thing that we brushed on, but there's so much more potential. Like this was the original Incredibles was 2004, and it was before superhero movies were pop. It was back when everyone was just doing their own thing, and most of them were bad. And like Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2 were out around this time, but
yeah, this came out the same year as
this was
Spider-Man
before
2.
this was before everyone was doing superheroes, and
You
there's
could
so
have
much
so
potential
much
to
to
like you were
talk
saying with
about.
Scream. Yeah, there's so much that you could explore with the meta because they do the whole monologuing thing, but you could do stuff even beyond that, talking about villains,
Well,
talking
it's
about just superheroes
yeah.
and like
Yeah, when we were watching it, because people watching don't know, but when we were watching it, I mentioned I compared it to Scream, comparing Scream 4 to Scream 5, because Scream 4 was talking about just like sequels in general, even though it feels more like it's about legacy sequels. But 5 had so much more
yeah,
like
because post Force
content.
Awakens,
Yeah.
like
Yeah, it came out in
there's so many
2022, so
legacy
it's like
sequels.
they knew what they were talking about in terms of legacy sequels. So making a Scream legacy sequel, making fun of legacy sequels by that point made perfect sense. I don't think Scream 5 is good, but it's beside the point. Um and doing that with Incredibles as a film that is the first one is all about superheroes, and it felt like, oh, we're praising this, this niche little corner of entertainment industry, which is comics, but that became this huge phenomenon that made a lot of money after the first Incredibles came out. By the time Incredibles 2 comes out, you have so much material you can work with about what superhero movies have becoming the mainstream, the whole idea of like everyone loving these superhero movies, but losing their kind of like niche appeal. Like you could do something like meta like that, instead of just talking about like being reverent to the comics. You can make it reverent to the superhero movies as well. That could be interesting. And there is an earnestness to that first film of like how much it loves superheroes. That would be really interesting to see about, like loving superhero movies. I think that could have something really cool to do about that, like kind of like Rango has about like westerns, but it just doesn't.
Yes, yeah, so much meta ideas, so much that could have been done. Yeah, I don't know. I like you were mentioning not having hope for 3, and I don't either, but I laugh because when you think about it, up like it's been almost 8 years since the original Incredibles came out. It doesn't get talked about nearly as much as the first film, as it shouldn't. But it's like a lot of time has passed. I'm like, can we please just realize the stuff that was set up in the original film? But I I, I'm very cynical about Brad Bird's role in it because I don't believe that he wants to make it. I don't believe they're just letting him do what he wants. I don't believe that it's something that he because like it too just feels like that, he wrote and directed it, right? But I'm like, do you really believe this is what he wanted? This is what he
Well,
loved.
it's
This was his
exactly.
idea. This he
I
was
said that
dying to
like
make this film.
it's hilarious. I said that 5 minutes into the film, and that is
Yeah.
just the idea I had throughout the entire film. But like, this can't possibly have been the idea that they had for this film after
Yeah,
15
right
years.
after picks up right after the first film. I'm like, I'm telling you, that was contractually obligated. I'm like, they were like, no, Jack still has to be a baby. It's like, come on, man,
I
really? Like
yeah.
the toys thing, like you were saying, They would have different character models. Bob would look older. Maybe give him like white hair. Have Helen have like gray streaks. Like have her be like Salt and Pepper. And of course, Dash and Violet, they would just be. They would look like
Young
adults. They would
adults,
be as
yeah.
tall as them. And Jack, like his design. There's so much you could do with him. His hair, like alone. And again, he's a fucking baby. So
It
I
could be anything.
do anything you want. So
So
yeah.
frustrating.
Oh
Just a
my.
film like lacking
I
any spine to actually commit to any idea. It is so boring.
well, this is the thing. So this touches on recommendation, I suppose, but because I obviously would recommend the original film, but two isn't even that bad of a movie. It's not
It's
like the Last
fine.
Jedi or the Rise of Skywalker, where it's like kind of just like I'll use the term offensively bad. At least with the Rise
The
of
Rise of
Skywalker is
Skywalker is
offensively
offensively
bad.
bad, yeah.
It insults the intelligence of the audience.
Yeah.
I would not say that two is quite that, but it is absolutely inferior. And
Yeah.
the best that can be said about it is that it's generic. It's just a passable animated superhero film, and that is not The Incredibles 1. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I guess that is the
I
thing, like it's like I said, if you didn't watch the first one and you watched Incredibles 2 alone, you might actually just come out of it thinking, yeah, that was okay. It's a pretty decent, fun, superhero film. But especially with the way we did it, we're
that
watching it back to back. It's just like, no, just don't watch the second. Just watch the first one. Ignore that the second
yeah,
one exists.
you didn't watch it for the longest period because people told you that it was bad and they
Yeah,
were right.
people told me the second one wasn't worth it, and it isn't. It isn't doing anything new or interesting. Because like there are things to be said about bad sequels that are actually trying to be something. And you mentioned the Last Jedi, and I think like there's value to be had in films like the Last Jedi.
Yeah.
I don't think there's value in a film like Incredibles 2. It's just nothing. Like I don't see
Well,
how
just
the world gained from this film existing.
well, yeah, like the OST is good. The animation in like part is like great. Like we mentioned the weirdness of it, but
Yeah.
I'm not going to pretend like this movie looks bad. Of course, like the animation is solid. The scene with Screenslaver and the helicopter scene are like
Yeah,
really
the
well put
action
together.
scenes are largely good.
Yeah, I
Except for the third act, which just goes bananas, which
yeah,
is like, yep, that was easy.
the fights before do a pretty decent job, but beyond that, just character.
Mhm.
Just when you think about character with two, it's just like what's there to go back to? What warrants rewatching
Yeah,
it?
I
What
think the only
warrants like what made it
characterful
worth
scene
it?
that was good, like outright good, without any caveats, was him um
Ellen and
teaching math
oh,
to the kid
Ma-
to Dash.
yes, that's such a weird moment. I absolutely loved that because I'm not a fan. The whole thing with Bob is in two. What they do is he
He's a
has to be a
stay-at-home
stay-at-home
dad,
dad
yeah.
because yeah, because Helen takes on the main character role. But there's this great little moment when he stays up like all night and he hits the books and learns like because they quote unquote changed math because he learned it differently. It's a classic thing of like carry
Yeah.
the four. Like what do you mean carry? I'm like so I he learns that and then he wakes up early in the morning and does Dash's homework with him and helps him through it and then it's just a
Yeah, I
great
found
little
it like a
character
really
scene
it's
where
super interesting because it was like he's always been the adrenaline junkie, but now he's forced to stay at home. And so he's like hesitant at first and everything's going wrong.
yeah.
He's like, okay, let me actually put some work into this because he thinks everything's just gonna fall in his lap, and it doesn't. And then he stops and
Yeah,
learns how
but
to teach him math, and it's not that hard. And he helps his kid. Isn't that adorable? Isn't that like a really great little
but-
character moment? It is. But then they kind of just walk back on it because he becomes again like
well,
the deadbeat, like not being able to take care of his kids properly. Dad, like after that scene, like it's like that one moment is like, oh my god, that's a great conclusion to his
yeah,
arc.
like
Now he's gonna be a
from
good dad.
at
But then it does
at that
no.
point, exactly, you'd think he'd be more confident. He'd be
Yeah.
like he'd have it all under control.
Which
But
is
no, like
again the whole
he's
thing
still
of like
insecure about Jack
with
Jack.
Violet, right? Where her being stood up by the kid. That would be the moment where he would talk to her. Like you said, with the whole like he's standing on her
Yeah,
door
well,
and she's like, no, I don't want to talk. But he opens the door anyway. He's like, yeah, I know you don't want to
yeah.
talk, but we are going to talk. Like that would have been a great moment to have that, but instead they interrupt that with Jack watching TV. It's like, okay,
Well, And you sort of get a payoff of that later in the film when he sits down on the couch, but it's like it's kind of like too little, too late. That's
Yeah.
like an hour and 10 minutes in. It's like why?
Well, you already
Like I
lost the
said, the
opportunity. You
original.
had the perfect opportunity to have that scene and to actually develop the fact that he was the one that caused that, her being stood up to happen. Like you could have actually
No,
done something like that, but with that, but
but
they leave it too late, and then she's just like, no, I forgive you, with no really like him doing anything to make up for it. He's just like, I sometimes do things without thinking of the consequences, and that's it. But like
yeah.
there is no like him earning her forgiveness. She just forgives him because he said that he was sorry, which is, there's value in just apologizing. But he didn't grow to learn that he did something wrong. He just did something wrong without thinking, and it isn't even treated as a big deal in the beginning of the film. It just feels like, oh, it's a joke, right? Like we're
No. Well, the scene we've mentioned Jack attack, but the whole context with Rick Dicker in interrogating him, it's the same framing. It's a dark room with one light, and he interrogates the babysitter from the original film who
Mhm.
witnessed Jack using powers and uses a mind wipe. They did that again, like they do Jack attack again with the raccoon. They do Jack attack again with Tony. When instead they could have had it so that they were just a couple, but they didn't. Like, I don't know why. I don't know why
I
you needed
genuinely
that.
think it
I
would be better if Tony was an asshole and stood her up, because you could actually have character with like Bob talking to Violet
well, yeah,
and teaching her about just like life sometimes doesn't go the way you plan. Sometimes people are assholes.
that's that's what I've always said about Tony is that like you could do anything you want. Like he's the popular guy that like Violet swoons over in the original film,
Yeah.
and she doesn't know him all that much, and they're just like a first date. Like I said, I'm like I like the idea that she marries him because
Hmm.
I'm just like why not? But also like that doesn't have to come to pass. You can do anything you want, just like Jack. Like
Have
the
so much you
characters who are
can
all
do.
but non-characters are just a world of potential,
Yeah.
but in two, just they're safe just having Jack be a baby and having Tony have his memories erased, and because of
And
it, it just
it's
feels like
fine anyway. By the end, they're just going on the date anyway. Like the the movies end on the exact same framing of like, yep, now heroes are gonna be back, and she gets a date, and they're all happy. And it's like, okay, why did we just redo the first film? It's literally doing everything fucking Scream 5 made fun of. Of the legacy sequel. It's so frustrating. Like, yeah, we're just gonna redo the exact same story.
yeah, a time that's my biggest thing with two. I'm just like if there's no time jump with three, like I don't know what we're doing. I'm like what how
Well, the
I'm
thing
not
is,
saying you
right?
can't develop the
Two became basically a villain of the week thing, and if they do the third,
yeah.
the same story as the first two, then it's just like, okay, the Incredibles franchise is just a villain of the week thing, and the first film was actually good, and the others are just like not. It's basically going to become an anthology because they're all going to be reset to the start of the first film and redo the arcs anyway. But there's no way they're going to do that again because they already done that with both the adults. So now they have to explore the kids. There's no way they're not going to, unless they're
Yeah.
really bad at their jobs.
Yeah, I mean, like that would literally be what it is. Like the first movie is Bob's movie, and two is focused on Helen with her
Yeah.
taking on more of the main character role. So it's like, I if you don't explore the kids, then I
I
don't know
don't know
what the
what
fuck
they
we're doing any of
fucking
this
do
for.
about Lucius. You did the same thing, but it's Lucius
Yeah,
and Honey now.
that'd be the main character. It's like Brad, come on! Like Disney threatened to kill my kids if I didn't make a third Incredibles movie. What the fuck did you want from me?
Speaking of which,
Scott,
and to say
would you?
something, something unequivocally good about the second film, Lucius is awesome. I fucking love
Oh,
Frozone. Samuel
dude,
Jackson's
that's the
great, and he's always cool with the action. And yeah, I like Frozone.
yeah. It's amazing that they got him back as well because they totally could have recasted him and just not given a shit. But it's so cool that Sam Jackson
Yeah.
came back for the role. But I love that scene. That's one of many great action scenes in the movie when they try to go for the kids at the house and
Mm.
it's the whole like acting like everything is okay, but you can tell he's like, run, they're gonna kill you. They're gonna mind wipe you. So yeah, lots of cool Frozone in the movie and yeah, amazing addition in both films where they just basically let him do his thing. I don't know how many animated didn't he play like Garfield's dad in the new Garfield with Chris
I
Pratt?
think so, yeah.
I think he did. I don't know what other animated.
Yeah, I'm looking
Do you
it up
remember other
now.
animated performance? Yeah, usually he's known for his live actions.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, and I don't think we have. I don't know how much we mentioned Evelyn's like motivation in two, by the way, but I find it the lamest shit in the world. For one, it's all the monologue is where she explains it. But what happened is her dad, like someone broke into her house and her dad called the superheroes rather than the police. And it's like, that's
And he
it?
died, yeah.
Yeah,
They couldn't save
yeah.
him, yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
for one, dead dad. I'm like, that's a great motivation. Like every character has that. So like you're throwing it in the pile. I, c- that's all you could come up with. It's like our dad died because superheroes were too slow. But that's all they do with her. And again, she's trying to discredit superheroes, which I think makes sense for a villain, but the way she goes about it,
It makes no sense. It's
I
super
don't know.
counterintuitive. She could have just set Helen up from the start, but she has this whole elaborate plan to build
Yeah,
her up to then prop her down. Which is just
yeah,
like,
she
why are
wants
we
them to
doing this?
look good and then bad, I guess. Like popular enough to get like media attention and then
And
pull the
almost pass the
rug out.
fucking law, but then pull out of it with
Uh,
the last
I,
second. There's no reason. There's no reason to do that. It makes absolutely no fucking sense.
yeah. Oh my God.
So yeah,
Skye, would you recommend The Incredibles or The Incredibles 2?
well, I think it's kind of obvious that I would highly recommend The Incredibles. One, I think we both agree that it is virtually perfect. It is just one of those films where it's like everything just fits together so tightly and so nicely, and it's just such a pleasant film to watch. Everything about the experience feels
Yeah.
pleasant. I feel the same way recently when I rewatched Wake Up Dead Man. I was just like, this is such a pleasant film to watch. Like I can see myself
I gotta
rewatching this like every couple months because it's so nice. It feels the
I
way it feels is so good, and it's so tight, and everything goes so perfectly. So yeah,
I gotta watch Wake Up Dead Man because I'm
I
like
thought about
I've
recommending it
heard
for
that
the
it goes
podcast.
back. I've heard that it goes back to the era of like how the original
Yeah,
Knives Out felt in comparison to Glass Onion, and the first movie does have a very warm vibe, doesn't it? It's like it's a very like cozy like
yeah.
Thanksgiving vibe movie.
It
So
does feel very
yeah,
Thanksgiving. Yeah.
yeah, but I'm with it. It's that whole thing where I'm like a lot of people don't believe a perfect movie is like a thing. It's like no movie's perfect, but what I've always said, even just with that, like even if you agree with that, there are movies that get damn close. And like Incredibles is one that I would put on that list where it's cozy, it's so well paced, the music's amazing, and the characterization's great. But
Yeah.
two, I
Yeah,
would not
two I would
recommend.
not recommend, yeah.
I feel they dropped the ball. It's like it's so funny too, because like I mentioned, it's not like The Rise of Skywalker. It's not offensively bad, but passable is not good enough for The Incredibles when the first movie was so great. And it's kind of the Pixar era that we're in now, isn't it? Of just sequels and just like we're
Yeah.
getting a Toy Story
It's
5.
either
We already got
sequels
4.
or films that are sent out to bomb with like no
Yeah,
marketing
like
whatsoever. It's
Elio, like
so weird.
Jesus. Yeah, Pixar needs to wake up because I mean, like fucking independent animation already is built. Like you got Glitch and like Vivian Madrano and the Amazing Digital Circus. Like there's so and Lackadaisy. Like then that's like more tailored towards adults. But like my
And
God,
obviously
man,
being more, TV shows rather than films, but
yeah. But it's just one of those things where Pixar was unstoppable for years. Disney just in general. But it's like
well,
times have
well,
changed,
yeah, there
man,
was
and
a
just
time where
giving
Disney
us
would win every animated
yeah
feature at the
Oscars, yeah.
Oscars every year, even if they weren't the best. And then Spider Verse happened, and they're just like
Yeah,
they've not recovered since Spider Verse.
did did Puss in Boots: The Last Wish win? Did it or wait? Hold on.
I think that was the same year as Across the Spider Verse, right? Wasn't it? Or
Yeah, I thought it won. Was I? Hang on. Academy High School nominated for best. What one?
I don't know what year. What year did
Academy
Puss in
Award
Boots win? Come out?
best in 2022 was when it came out.
Okay, so
That's a
2023 was Pinocchio.
wait. That
Guillermo
won
del
it?
Toro.
No.
Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, not
Oh,
Disney's.
oh, yeah. Oh, that was. Oh, I think Puss in Boots should have won. Honestly, I love Pinocchio, but Puss in Boots is a better film.
Yeah,
Oh
I didn't.
God.
I haven't watched Pinocchio yet, but
Yeah,
the
that is the animation in general, like that. I think we were talking about that being such an outlier that it's a legacy sequel, like to Shrek, and it's all that, but it's so earnest and the animation is so good, and it's just like, where did you come from? Where did something this good come from
yeah.
animation? It's like Spider-Verse is the same. It's always amazing. We just see a genuinely innovative, great animated film.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I was thinking actually, because of I was watching Incredibles today, that The Wild Robot is a film that I kind of want to watch with you, just because it's like such an
I
amazing original animated film that I love, and it feels so earnest. Like last year was great. There were those Flow and Wild Robot.
yeah.
Wow.
Well, you were mentioning just Disney just being top of the ladder and like they always won best animated feature and I'm like times are changing, man. They're people are stepping up their game in the animation
Yeah.
department and
And the
yeah.
fact Flow one is so beautiful. Just like yes, independent animation, low budget animation. It has its place because it's like I don't think Flow is nearly as good as the Wild Robot, but it has so much heart and it's such a fun story of
Well,
like this tiny little film from
it was made in Blender, right?
yeah
Like that's just, that's like one of those like the animation alone is worth the Oscar rather than necessarily the story. Like you don't need one. It's just like
yeah
my God, the work they put in.
yeah, but and obviously being a film from shit, what's the name of the country? Latvia. Yeah, it's great. It's fucking awesome, and I love that it won. Even if, I, I think Wild Robot deserved it more. I think it means more for Flow to have won. So yeah,
Yeah. We'll see. So yeah,
yeah,
that's
Incredibles 3.
how long have we been going? My God,
Literally an
I
hour and a
obviously have so
half.
much to say about both of these. Yeah, The Incredibles obviously means a lot to me, and this is one of those just all-time favorite films to put on there because
Yeah,
the first movie just does it all for me. So
yeah.
okay, Skye, what do you have on the docket for a recommendation?
Um, hmm, hmm. You know what? I mentioned it to you. Fuck it, why not? I mentioned it to you today. Let's do the Indiana Jones trilogy. Ooh.
Ooh,
It's
all
been,
just the whole trilogy? Huh.
yeah. I mean, there's five now, but the
Well,
first three are
did
canon. The rest we don't
did
care
you
about.
did you watch Dial of Destiny? I never
I'd
did.
never watched Dial of Destiny. I
Uh,
watched
well, yeah,
Kingdom. What Kingdom? What's the name?
Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Kingdom of the
It's
Crystal
Kingdom of the
Skull.
Crystal.
Yeah, yeah. My brain
I like.
broke for a second there. I watched that when I was a
What?
kid, and it was fine.
Yeah.
But the first three, I grew up with those films. Those and Jurassic Park are like my entire
Oh.
childhood. And it's
Well,
funny. I always like my favorite Jurassic Park was always three when I was a kid. Um,
three. Yeah.
which is like embarrassed to say that nowadays, but yeah, I did like it. And Indiana Jones, I always loved it. I had
Well,
I made my dad put the theme song from Indiana Jones as his ringtone on his phone. This is like in the
yeah.
2000s. He had to like pay for it to be his
Yeah, like the
ringtone and everything.
paid ring. Like it's hard to get something like that. It's
Yeah,
just easy nowadays. But
yeah.
oh
So
man,
it's the whole
I
thing.
grew up.
I love those films so fucking much, and I'm excited to
Yeah,
rewatch. I rewatched Raiders a couple years back, but I never finished the whole trilogy, so I'm excited to watch it all now.
yeah, I grew up with those movies and Raiders of the Lost Ark is another like top 20 or top 10 film. And again, just like Giacchino, the score alone, like
Yeah,
John Williams' music in that film is that is my favorite OST that he's ever made. And
Yeah,
yeah, oh my God.
fantastic.
All right, Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
Let's fucking go. Yeah, all right.
Thankfully, we have a bit more than a week because of we're recording this a little earlier than usual.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
so we have more
You
time to
threw it
watch
out
all
there. You're like,
three.
yeah, you're like, why not? We were already about to do it. So I
Yeah.
mean, I proposed just like, us watching it independently, but I'm like,
Yeah.
you know what? I really do think we gave two a fair shake,
Yeah.
especially since you hadn't seen it. We were
Yeah.
nice.
We try to be nice, okay? It's just hard. The film does not help itself.
It's
Ah, okay.
okay.
Well,
So, Indiana Jones it is.
Indiana
All
Jones
right.
it is, yeah. We'll catch you next week for Indiana Jones, folks. Oh yeah. Yeah, when this comes out, my birthday will have passed. My birthday on the 17th. Whoa. So, yeah, happy birthday to me. I'm old now. Yeah. When we
You
catch
were
you next
saying
time, I will
that
be
like you feel
23.
old.
Oh,
It's funny feeling old when
yeah.
you're in your 20s because you're really
It's fun.
not, but
What?
it's just
But there's to
time, you
me.
know?
I'm 23. It's been 5 years since I was 18. It's half a decade. That's insane.
Well, I
Insane.
just love thinking about COVID in that regard, of that being plus 5 years. Like, dude, really? I'm like,
It
don't
feels
feel
like
like that. It's
a
just,
week ago. Yeah.
yeah, just time so different
COVID
in a
did
modern
fuck our
era.
like
So.
whole perception of time.
Oh my God. All right. So
Anyway, yeah, we'll catch you
happy
next week
happy
with Indiana
pre-birthday,
Jones.
Skye, and
Thank you.
Indiana Jones next week. All right. Catch you later.
Bye bye.